Yo, what's up everyone? Kyros here, and today we're going to do a tier list for Tower of Fantasy. Now we're going to cover the SR weapons, the SSR weapons, and then some of the future banners. So hopefully you guys do enjoy this tier list. It's a little bit my own personal opinion and a little bit of just what we know from playing the game for the last 9 months. Now we are going to be using this new website called toweroffantasy.info, a really great website. I highly suggest you go check it out. It's got a lot of good information there. And then we will be going in game and checking out some of the stuff too, that and showcasing where I can. Also, if you're enjoying the video, hit that like and subscribe. It really does help the channel out, helps us grow. Let's get started. Okay, quickly before we get started, in the interest of time, I'm not going to fully go over every single character. We will show like a slight bit of gameplay if I can, and I'll go over a little bit of the methodology of why I place them in each location. But most of these characters are going to require their own review, which I will have all those reviews on the way depending on when you're watching this video. So let's get started. First one I want to start off with is 𝙀𝙓𝙋𝘼𝘉. Now 𝙀𝙀𝙋 is actually really good. She's got a giant hammer. She's able to do a lot of stun. She's ice element, and she just does a ton of damage. And then she also reduces damage of when you get hit and stuff like that. You see her 3-star advancement is after receiving damage for 50, after receiving damage, you reduce all damage received by 50% for the next 6 seconds. Cooldown 20 seconds. You know, most of these everyone's gonna get a full 6-star SR of all the different weapons, and there's only a couple of weapons, and they are good and used for a specific period of time. But all the SSR weapons will outclass all your SR weapons, so I don't want to dive too deep. But this is a good weapon to use in the beginning of the game to do a lot of damage and to do some shield breaking. Next up on the list, we do have Pepper. Now, Pepper's tier can go up a little bit. Now, remember, I would say that you can move these every character up 1 or down 1, depending on what SSRs you have. And depending on what content you're doing, if you're trying to do some harder content with maybe a group of people in a dungeon and you take the full role of a healer, and you have another SSR like Coco, doing Pepper and Coco for a double healer is going to give you a lot of versatility in that team. But a lot of the content in Tower of Fantasy, at least in 1.0, is just a DPS Zerg fest. So healers aren't always per se needed, but you will need them in the beginning game for world bosses as we try to underlevel a lot of those. Now, Pepper is really good. Her 1-star advancement heals all teammates within 10 meters whenever you dodge. Really cool. And then her 6-star advancement grants all teammates within range of skill 60% damage reduction and immunity to crowd control effect. So it allows you to go in there for some of these world bosses, drop your skill down, do a lot of healing, and help people out. A lot of these other ones are just pretty typical across the board. Now, next one we up is 𝙀𝙓𝙋𝘼𝙉. 𝙀𝙓𝙋 is actually a physical bow type. Pretty good in the beginning of the game. I do really enjoy bows. Sometimes their attack animation can be a little funky, but 𝙀𝙓𝙋 does have a spot in PvP. If you're trying to do some early PvP where you don't have a ton of SSRs and you're probably going against other people that are in the same boat, she can be used in PvP. Her 1-star advancement and her 6-star and 5-star advancements are actually very good. Restores 1 dodge every 5th normal attack, really good. So you can just spam that normal attack. Whenever she dodges, she causes Grievous. Now, Grievous is something specific to physical characters. You'll see this on Claudia and a bunch of others, where once you apply Grievous to a target, they take 20% extra damage. And then she gets a innate crit rate on top of that and crit damage against Grievous targets. So 𝙀𝙓𝙋 could actually do a lot of damage in the beginning. So if I was to build an SSR, just an SR team in the beginning of the game, it would probably be 𝙀𝙓𝙋, Pepper, and 𝙀𝙀𝙋, or 𝙀𝙀𝙋, not 𝙀𝙀. 𝙀𝙀𝙋's dog, right? Next up on the list, we do have 𝙀𝙀𝙋. Now, 𝙀𝙀𝙋 is a big gun. A big gun. But I'm not a big fan of 𝙀𝙀𝙋. One, her attack animations are really weird because it's all scoped in damage. You can't really do a whole lot of dodging with her. She's really designed for dungeons where you're the DPS role and you sit on the turret and you just pump out a ton of damage. Nothing to really write home here about, in my opinion. She's going to do an additional amount of damage when she sits down on her seat. I just don't like the way her cooldowns and her She wants you to switch weapons every essentially 25 seconds. So you only get that burst of damage in the first 10 seconds. Ours, we do have Echo. Now, Echo's actually pretty good. She does a lot of shield shattering in the beginning of the game, and it's always good to have at least one extreme shield shattering weapon. There's a lot better SSRs, once again, out there. But out of the shield shattering, she's probably one of the top in SRs. Now, even though she's a D rank, she plays kind of clunky. I'm not a big fan of the attack animation of spears, and funny enough, until we're all the way at 2.1 and beyond, and they're just now coming out with the second spear character, more or less. All right, guys, let's kick it off, and we're gonna start off with my favorite, one of my favorites, Meryl, and she is definitely an S rank. Now, she is designed to do a lot of shield shattering. If you're not familiar with this game, a lot of the big boss enemies, bosses, or big elite types will put shields on themselves where you can't really do damage to their health while that shield is up. Also, bosses will do shields to the point that if you don't take the shield down fast enough, they'll do an ultimate ability and you'll take a lot of damage. Or sometimes you'll just get one shot. Now, she's absolutely amazing. She is the Queen Princess, and she's got a great design. Now, she is a defense resonance type, and if you don't know what resonance is, we'll have another video covering that, or I probably already do on the channel. Check my playlist. She is an ice element. We do love ice element. Freezing targets is really cool. But let's look at her skills real quick. So her skill use is she swings the blade and creates these beams, essentially like having the fully charged Master Sword, right? Right here does the beams. 90% attack rate, does them 5 times, and then increases damage with each hit. This is really cool, and while active, immune to crowd control effects. So she's able to slam some damage down and make it so she gets through all of that damage. Her ultimate, when her weapon is charged, removes all debuffs from the wielder and smashes the ground in the form of a barrier upon switching to this weapon, dealing 419% attack, plus 22 to nearby enemies, knocking them up in the air and reduces their attack speed and stopping them from dodging and jumping and all that goodness. And then creates a barrier lasting 5 seconds that blocks projectiles. So you hit her with the ult, you hit her skill, she does a ton of shield breaking. Now, the one thing I do want to point out before we move on, if you are advancing her stars, and if you're unfamiliar with stars, you should really go check out my gotcha explanation and some of that other stuff, and we'll have a full deep dive on all of these characters. The one I would like to point out is her 1-star. Increases shatter effects by 15% and restores HP upon shattering that target, because there are a lot of sustainability, makes her very viable. Great addition to any team. All right, moving on down to the A ranks, we do have Claudia. Now, I do love Claudia. Claudia is the first limited. She could be moved around. Now, once again, in this list, you can move them up 1, you can move them down 1, you could probably move them around depending on what your team composition. It depends on what you're doing. You might need a physical team, or you might need an ice team, or you might need a fire team, because maybe the dungeon you're doing makes it so you take 50% less, or they take 50% less fire damage. You don't want to bring fire into that, right? So you're going to use a lot of characters. Claudia is absolutely amazing. She is a DPS resonance type with a physical element, does a lot of damage, but she's kind of a weapon where you're going to swap in, do her skills, do her ultimate, swap out. She does cause that Grievous for 7 seconds. The target will take an additional 20% damage. And the one advancement I'd like to point out is that 1-star is absolutely amazing. After hitting a target with a skill or discharge skill, grants a stack a damage boost, increasing damage by 8% for 25 seconds, stacking 3 times. Wonderful. So her skill is kind of like Cloud Strife. You do an Omni Strike, and you deal up to 48% damage to 5 targets. You go all around the air, knocking them in the air. You're immune to crowd control effects, and the cooldown is 15 seconds. Such a cool skill. Also used in PvP. Discharge is when the weapon is fully charged. Switching to this weapon or another weapon, blah, 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 removes all the debuffs from the wielder. You'll see this around. I'm not really going to repeat this over and over again. This is typical for every fully charged. Next up on the A list, I do want to bring out Coco. I do love Coco. Coco is technically the best healer in the game, or at least at 1.0. And when we were talking about earlier, if you are running healing per se, and you're trying to do that harder content, and you're doing dungeons, and you take on that healing role, stacking Pepper and Coco together would be a really good combination. Now, just going over the Coco, she is a support ice element. You won't really be attacking too much with Coco, but do realize that when you are using when you're using usually support weapons, you get higher charge rates on your weapons, so you can ultimate a lot more. Looking at her skills, she creates a healing zone that moves with the Wanderer and heals nearby allies for 95% attack, +5, yada yada yada, 60-second cooldown for 6 seconds. So she heals, and that's really good. Her discharge does the same thing essentially, but she puts her staff on the ground and removes all debuffs from all allies, including yourself, and then provides healing. So this is something you have to sit in, so you need to make sure you use it in the right location. Now, the one thing I do want to point out just quickly is that her 1-star advancement is really good. Now, the rest of her advancements are really good as well, but most of these guys are going to be slated towards free to play, so you have to be pick and choosy on how you're going to advance your characters. After dodging, summon a healing bee that follows the user or an ally and heals them essentially for 25 seconds. Absolutely cracked. Next up on the list, we do have Shiro, and Shiro is going to be in that B rank. Now, that's not to say that Shiro is bad. She's actually really cool. I like her design. I like her kit and everything like that. But she does play a little bit awkwardly. From an auto-attacking perspective, she's actually pretty good. But it's just the fact that Claudio does it better, especially from the target Grievous, right? You do that 20%. You're going to see that all elements are usually around the same, whether it's physical, fire, or ice, or any of those, or volt. They're all going to do kind of the same thing. But I just think Claudia does it better, especially with the 1-star advancement. So let's look at her skill. Creates a chakram domain with the Wanderer at the center. Pulls targets in and reduces their speed by 30%. Also fires 5 chakrams that bounce between enemies. So this is a really cool skill. This is a really cool skill. 60-second cooldown. I think it looks really cool, and it does some decent damage, but nothing to really write home about in my opinion. Her discharge is pretty cool as well. Struck targets essentially unleashes all her chakrams. And struck targets cause AoE stun for 1 second, +1 attack. And so it does some additional damage here, right, as well. You can use her in PvP, and that's probably her shine to fame. Would I use her that much in PvE? Yes, if I had her, right? Like, maybe that's the only SSR you have, but not really. I just think there's better that can be done. So for that, we're going to give her a B rank. All right, continue down the line. Next one I want to talk about is Crow. Now, Crow, I have a little bit of a beef with. Crow can be double S, but can also be doo-doo trash. So technically, one of the highest DPS combos in the game is done by Crow, especially in 1.0. It does require a lot of investment, and it does require having like a perfect gear set. So I'm going to put them somewhere in the middle. So just move Crow up or down where you feel. But I'll show a little clip real quick about that combo. He can do some really monstrous damage. It's just, I feel like most people aren't going to do that. But looking at him, he is a Volt DPS type. Volts all do paralysis and additional damage and stuff like that. His skills are fires 6 returning blades. So it's the blades that go around you, like in the beginning of the game. They do damage. You can do it every 45 seconds. It lasts for 8 seconds. And then his discharge removes all buffs. Blinks to the target location, switches to the weapon, and then deals damage. Electrocuting the target, doing additional dot damage. So it does a lot of damage. Now, if I was to point this out, you really do need him to be safe. For what I'm talking about, you really do need all of his advancements. You need attacking targets from behind, increases crit rate. You need additional damage when the target is less than 60%. You need his increased attack growth. You need triggering back attack, gives you 100% crit rate for the next 4 seconds, increased crit damage. And then when using the skill, increases volt damage to the target by 20% for 20 seconds. This is what makes him do a ton of damage, but it's just not very viable for a lot of people. So that's why he gets that rating. Next up, we do have 𝙀𝙑𝙋. 𝙀𝙑𝙋 is going to get the same rating as a B rating. Now, 𝙀𝙑𝙑 is actually pretty good, and I do really like her kit. especially with the dodge attacks. The dodge attacks are really cool, and she's usable in PvP. She is a DPS type, ice element. Ice element's very annoying in PvP, right? You get frozen, slowed, whatever. Really, really annoying. Oh, snap! Skill performs a backflip just like the other bows. You'll see that they're very similar. Does X amount of damage on an area of effect on the ground. Knocks back the target, stuns them, yada, yada, yada. Oh, sorry, this one not area. It just does damage in that blast right in front. Discharge removes all buffs, then creates a hailstorm. This is the one I was thinking of. Deals damage in that hailstorm and 10% chance to inflict 2 seconds of freeze effect, which is pretty good. Increases damage dealt by 15% and speed by when you get cold front. So this is what makes her really good in PvP. Now, one thing I do want to point out is that in order for her to be really, really usable, you really need this 3-star. Launching a dodge attack, fires 3 charged arrows. This does a ton of damage and is very, very annoying. So at a minimum, I would say is that if you did get her the 3-star, she would be really good. She would be really good. But you wouldn't really use her in PvP except for every now and then if you need to run like a double ice team. And you might use her in PvP. Not someone I would overly invest in when there's better choices for free to play, especially. All right, next up, let's go up higher in the list. We do have our good boy King. King is just amazing. Love him. I run him in almost every single group, especially in 1.0. Fire damage type, really good. Really good at shield cracking, just like 𝙀𝙓𝙋𝘼𝙉𝘿. Kind of shield cracks in a different way. I like them both for different reasons, but I really do love King. So going over the King real quick, is a DPS weapon type, flame weapon. All flame weapons, fully charged weapons, set the target on fire, so it does more damage. I really enjoy his skill. He essentially swings the scythe in a huge arc. Does 284% damage. Really, really good. I wish the cooldown was 30 seconds and not 45. And the discharge is really good. Slams the scythe into the ground. Does an AoE where all these scythes pop up. Additionally spawns flaming scythes every 2 seconds. And they all volcanic erupt and do a ton of damage. Absolutely, absolutely amazing. Now, if I was to point something out, he's built to take down shields and HP shields and shielded enemies. He does wicked damage against shielded enemies. His 1-star effect is really his cream of the crop, though. Increases shatter damage by 15% after shattering the target shield. Deal additional damage to the target every second for 15 seconds. So essentially puts a dot on the target. Once he strikes that, puts fire debuff on it. But you can see all of his other stars, right? Increases damage by 100% to shielded enemies. Like crazy. Really, really good. Definitely deserves the S tier. Very long-winded. Next up, we do a Samir. I do love Samir. I run her a lot. I used to run her. She used to be my main DPS before I got some other characters like Lin Yi and a few others. But Samir, love her to death. She's great. She's Volt type, DPS resonance. And she just does a lot of AoE and really fast attacks. And that's what makes her really, really good. So pairing her with like someone like King and a few others, she's just a well-rounded character. And she is hot as... Anyways, let's move on to the skill. The skill puts an electro field on the battlefield, deals damage every second. And the last hit launches targets in the air. Really, really cool. Discharge does the same thing, creates a dome of thunder that does damages enemies in an area, dispelling their buffs, yada yada yada. Really, really, really good. Now, if I was to point out her key achievements, it's really her 1-star achievement, which is really, really good. Triggering electrical explosion on the target after landing a critical hit, dealing damage equal to 30% of your attack. That also hits the target and nearby enemies, so it just makes her do even more AoE. Mwah. She's great. It's absolutely wonderful. Hey, you guys can see if you're here this far in the video, I'm not really covering everything else because I'm going to cover it in the deep dive videos. All right, next up, we do have 𝙀𝙓𝙋𝘼𝙉𝘿. Now, 𝙀𝙀 is really, really good. You got to put him somewhere, guys, right? Like, once again, move him up or down. I actually really enjoy 𝙀𝙀. The problem is that 𝙀𝙀 really doesn't come alive until you get some of his advancements. Still does a lot of damage. Really cool kit set. Is technically a healer. So let's just go over there and look real quick. It's technically a support flame type. So if you're having to run double flame like King and him, to bring like a full flame team in. Creates a shield around self and allies, blocking up to 800% of attack in damage for 10 seconds. And then deals 109% of attack to nearby targets and launches them in the air for each cube in possession, which is really, really cool. His ultimate does the same thing, essentially gains 5 cubes, then unleashes them in the shockwave, does a ton of damage, launches everyone in the air, does a lot of control. Now, the problem is that he is a support, so he doesn't do that shield, but you need a little bit of healing too. And unfortunately, he does not get his healing until the advancement 1 deals damage to produce that healing orb for anyone to pick up or any teammate to pick up. All right, rounding out the B ranks, we're going to put Huma down there. Now, Huma's actually really cool, and she's actually a lot of fun to play. She's essentially like a switch axe from Monster Hunter, right? You have a shield, you have it becomes like a switch axe, like shield thing. Like, it's actually really, really cool. She is defense type, flame type, and she's really annoying in the battle royale. Like, you get like her shield mode in the battle royale mode that you guys will that everyone will eventually get. She's just annoying, very annoying. Skill allows you to switch from shield form to axe form, smash the ground, does a lot of damage, knocks enemies in the air, deals continuous damage on top of that when you do that, and then when you switch from axe form back to shield form, does a little bit different. Slams into the ground, does a lot of damage for that shield conversion. So it's kind of cool. Her whole kit is about switching on and off her shield form and her axe form. Her discharge unleashes a flame shockwave, taunts enemies for 5 seconds. So yeah, cool, taunting enemies. You need to be careful when you use this though, because if you do in a dungeon and you taunt everything and you're not in shield form or you're not fully topped off, you might get one shot. Increases damage reduction, but still. Shatter shield shaped objects based on the number of targets. All right, rounding out the A ranks, we do have Nemesis. I don't know why I'm putting Nemesis on the 1.0, but it is eventually a limited banner, and that's probably all we'll really cover on the 1.0. Sorry, we got one more to cover on the 1.0 characters. But Nemesis is really great. She's a great support. You can hit her skill, you can hit her ultimate, you can swap to someone else, and it just does a ton of damage. She is a support resonance with Volt type. When equipped with 2 or more Volt weapons, increases Volt attack by 20% on top of that. So maybe if you're stacking with Crow, I can't showcase any of the stuff. I can showcase some of the screenshots, but she still is really good. I wish I had her. There's sometimes I'm like, man, I really wish I had Nemesis. I don't have her on my main account, but she falls right in the middle there. Perfectly good, not bad, right in the middle. All right, and the last one we want to cover is 𝙀𝙬𝙉, and 𝙀𝙬𝙉 is just absolutely cracked. She's in that S rank. Now, she's a gun type just like 𝙀𝙬𝙉, but she doesn't have that turret where you have to sit on it. She can walk around with her gun and actually do dodge moves, and do AoE moves, and then she has a barrage move, and it just does a wicked amount of damage. She's actually the highest DPS in the game in 1.0, so she's the second limited banner. She does get outclassed later, but if you do pull for her, it's not a bad pull at all. Out the gate, she has DPS flame type. Her skills on top of that, we don't have the skills here either, so that's cool. All right, anyways, so she has a skill barrage that does like a big burst and a wide angle, and then she has a big attack on her ultimate. She just synergizes really well, and then especially her advancements. Each hit of the skill returns 2% of the damage dealt by 200%. Absolutely amazing. You just can't go wrong with her, but just realize that she does get outclassed later, so you may or may not want to pull her, but she is an S tier. All right, so I think that covers most of the characters that we're gonna have in the beginning of the game, and also goes over a little bit of more detail, so you know why we chose to put them everywhere where they're at. Now you're probably wondering, yo, Kyros, you have that SS tier and that untouchable tier and a bunch of others. So I'm actually just going to place some of the upcoming characters, but I'm going to put them on the board. I'm not really going to show you too much about what they do. I'll have other videos covering them, and I have review guides already for like Lin Yi and a few others. You have 𝙀𝙬𝙋. I'm probably butchering that, but she was a collab unit, and she's going to be anywhere between A rank and an S rank. She's a really cool unit, but let me say this right here. This character and the character I'm about to tell you about, we're probably not going to get in global. It was a China exclusive collab that we're probably not going to get. So we'll probably get some other collab that I'll have to make an updated tier list when we get there. So take these two with a grain of salt. And if you want to go look at their skills, they're cool. They're really cool. Mark is in the untouchable tier. Mark is just like, he's a monster, dude. He does like an insane amount of damage. Has like this mech and everything that slams into the ground. And you just cannot keep up with him. Like he's like, it's just stupid. Like he does shields, amplify, guardian, right? He's really broken. Like really insanely broken to the point that like everyone runs him typically in the Chinese version for any high-end play. So it'll be really interesting to see what other characters we get for that. Now when we get closer to 2.0, some of these 2.0 characters are really, really good. So this character is not 2.0. This is in 1 point something. Frigg is also really good. I'm up in the air about Frigg. I think I'm gonna put her somewhere between S rank and A rank. So please, take both of those in a grain of salt. I need to test her some more. I never got Frigg. Now there was a bug originally when she originally came out where she was untouchable. It did an insane amount of damage, but she's still really good, to the point that, like I said, these two are kind of interchangeable on where you put them depending on what other characters you have. And then they're going to outclass some of your other characters as they come out. Now, the next three are definitely in the SS and untouchable rank. Saki, she's really cool. She's got double katanas. She's a tank DPS healer essentially in one. She's defense type, ice element. Well, I guess not a healer, but she's got such a great kit where she could just sit there and tank a bunch of stuff and then do a ton of damage on top of that. A character I'm super excited to get, and also a great animation. Ruby is in that untouchable range. Ruby currently technically does the most damage in the game, from a just I'm gonna sit here and focus fire and DPS this target down. Ruby is absolutely cracked. And I also love her storyline that you guys are gonna love when we get there. Not really gonna cover too much about her abilities and stuff like that. We'll have a more full review on Ruby. This is just to give you a sneak peek. And then finally Lin Yi, which if you guys have been watching my content, you probably see Lin Yi all over the place because she's amazing. She's amazing. She's also in the SS tier, mainly just due to her kit and her synergy, and she does a lot of damage. She also does a lot of damage, but she's able to fly like almost indefinitely, and some of her advancements are just absolutely wicked, to the point where you can reduce the time of night blooms by 0.3. Normal attacks, this one's really crazy. I have this on our Chinese account. Normal attacks deal AoE damage. That means every single one does AoE damage. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. She's really, really good. But hopefully that clears some things up for you guys. Hopefully that helped. I will have a full review of all the starting characters dropping really, really soon. Let me know in the comments down below. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did you find this useful? Does this help with your rerolling? We'll have a reroll guide, which, spoiler alert, right here, if you're watching this, you don't need to reroll. This type of game, you're going to get a lot of resources. You're going to get a lot of SSRs. You don't technically need to do it, but if you want to go ham, you can do it. That's all I got, guys. I'll see you guys in the next video, and peace out. Fist bump from me to you.